reunited and it feels so good. What in the world am I doing? Singing a 70s classic by Peaches and Herb, Reunited. Well, you'll find out as we fire up the Perkins Pipes Bent Brandy and get to talking. So this is an episode inspired by a couple of viewers on an episode I've done here recently. We're talking about some books and some things. And a couple of guys talked in the comments about the fun of maybe going back and finding a book on your shelf. I'd have to go back and look at the comments precisely. So I thought, okay, let's talk about getting reunited with some of our favorite things, favorite books, and so forth. The Bent Brandy that I made is definitely one of my favorites. Good to be reunited with this guy. Got some good old-fashioned Sir Walter Raleigh in here. Good to be reunited with this. So let's talk about revisiting things. How often do you like to go back and rewatch films that you've seen once, twice, 50 times? How much do you like to go back and listen to a favorite album? Go back to a favorite restaurant, vacation at the same spot repeatedly. Just, do the same activities over and over and over again. First off, what are some of those things that you really enjoy going back to, getting reunited with, as it were? So first of all, just that question, right? What do you like to get reunited with in terms of activities? Any particular pipes? You've got your pipe rotation, of course, but are there ones that you just love to go back to? May have been a cheap one, may have been something that somebody gave you, is an exotic one that you long desired to get your hands on. What's a pipe that you like to get reunited with? And then let's talk specifically about books. Some of us who really enjoy reading, we've got, so many books. I've got literally thousands of books. And certainly there are some that I have read more than once. You take like the Bible, you take, in my case, as a Latin teacher, I've read the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, works like this, both for pleasure and as a part of my professional life. I've read these multiple times. I'm not talking necessarily about that, but just good old-fashioned pleasure reading. And let's stay with books. Let's stay with novels on this. And there are certainly several novels that I have read multiple times. I've mentioned, I think, on this channel, I've read the Dune series by Frank Herbert, which is quite popular right now with the new films that are out. I've read almost all of the Longmire books by Craig Johnson multiple times. I've read the entire series through. The most recent volumes I haven't read but once, but I got to give them a little space before I revisit them, and I'm sure that I will. I mentioned, we had an episode a while back, I talked about film noir and the pot boiler, hard-boiled fiction of Mickey Spillane. I've read Mickey Spillane books multiple times over. Here's one that I want to introduce you to that I have read multiple times. The title and the cover may surprise you. For me, it's called The Scandal of the Season. Scandal of the Season by an author named Sophie G. And you see you've got a young woman here on the cover. She's got a silk ribbon around her neck. You're saying, okay, what in the world is Perkins doing reading this novel? Sophie G is, at the time of the writing of this book, she was an assistant professor of English at Princeton. I'm not sure if she's still there. She may be. This book was published in 2007. 2007. You say, well, golly, that looks a bit like a romance novel. Perkins is on here talking about hard rock, heavy metal. He's talked about swashbuckling films like Spartacus. You hear smoking pipes and codger blends like Sir Walter Raleigh at that. What in the world is this guy doing with this book, and why is it such a favorite? Well, it's historical fiction, and it features as a character my favorite British poet of all time. I've mentioned him numerous times on this channel, Alexander Pope, 1688 to 1744. Absolutely my favorite British poet. I would probably say my favorite English writing poet, period. And right up there in my enjoyment with Homer and Virgil in Greek and Latin. And so I'm just reading to you from the book flap here. London, 1711. As the rich young offspring of the city's most fashionable families fill their days with masquerade balls and clandestine courtships, Arabella Fermor and Robert, Lord Peter, lead the pursuit of pleasure. Beautiful and vain, Arabella is a clever coquette with a large circle of beaux. Lord Peter, 7th Baron of Ingatstone, is a man about town with his choice of mistresses. Drawn together by an overpowering attraction, the two begin an illicit affair. You go, well, that really does sound like a romance novel, and in many ways, I suppose it is. Next paragraph reads, though, Alexander Pope, sickly and nearly penniless, is peripheral by birth, yet his uncommon wit and ambition gain him unlikely entrance into high society. Once there, privy to every nuance and drama, he is a ruthless observer. He longs for the success that will cement his place in society. All he needs is one poem grand enough to make his reputation. So, when I saw this at the bookstore, would have been in 2007. I know I purchased it right away. And actually, I'm not sure. I may have read about it, come to think of it. May have read about it online and then gone to find it in the bookstore. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. Gotta enjoy that Sir Walter Raleigh. Nice clouds of smoke. Thinking about smoke rings from my pipe with brother Malcolm Guite. I bought it immediately because, again, I'm a huge Alexander Pope fan. And what is being referenced here was an actual event. This young woman, young man, upper class British society, he was pursuing her, and somewhere along the way, he got it in his head to, I don't know, tease her, trick her. They were playing cards. A bunch of people were playing cards. And he slipped up behind her, and with a little pair of scissors, he clipped off a lock of her hair. Well, 18th century, 21st century, I don't care. Young woman's going to be pretty upset. A guy comes along and cuts off a piece of her hair. She got very upset. The two families immediately kind of went to arms, as it were, in society. And Alexander Pope wrote the mock epic poem, The Rape of the Lock, to bring these two families together and really to show the silliness of all this. Now, you must understand that the word rape is coming from the Latin verb rapere, R-A-P-E-R-E, which literally just means to seize violently, to take, which is why at one time we would use the expression, perhaps an army might go in and say rape the land, simply meaning to violently take over the land. So the rape of the lock was quite literally the violent seizure of this lock of hair. So what Pope did was to write a mock epic. He wrote it in the style of Homer and Virgil. And oh my goodness, he made the action just seem like it was the action of a war. This might as well have been the Trojan War, for heaven's sake. He brought in his own mythical creatures, the little sylphs, he called them, little sprites, little spirits of the air. And it was wonderful. It's great fun. The poem is great fun. I encourage you to find it, to read it. It's great wordplay, tremendous wordplay in English, tremendous references in the structure and the language of the poetry to things you would find in Homer and Virgil, classical epic poetry. And by building this up as such a big deal, right, it highlights just what a trivial deal it was. And in fact, that's the beginning of the poem. What dire offense from amorous causes springs, what mighty contest rise from trivial things. Those are the opening two lines of the poem. So I wanted to get it for that reason. And I like historical fiction. And this is particularly, it's very, very, very well written, captures upper class British life of the 18th century very, very nicely. So I'm curious, what sorts of books in particular have you gone back to? What novels have you gone back to read more than once? Talk to us about that. Certainly, if you like this kind of thing, we'd love to have you subscribe here at Perkins Pipes. As Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as I like to say in Latin, Parva ut tandem, nihil agam. Hopefully you can get reunited with one of your favorite pipes. Have a wonderful day.